So the cell theory says that all living things or organisms are composed of cells, and organisms may be unicellular or multicellular. Cells are the fundamental unit of life, so all cells contain a genetic information which determines their function, metabolism, which allows them to carry out their functions and are capable of reproduction. So in every cell, there has to be some sort of genetic material. And that genetic material is DNA or RNA, but that's not important. The point is that they have some sort of code inside of them that tells them, what they look like, how they function, just like we do, even in a one-celled organism. And they carry out reproduction. So in order to be a cell, you need to be able to create, new versions of yourself, whether that be through asexual or sexual reproduction. That's not really important. All cells are produced from other cells through cell division, a concept referred to as biogenesis. So in order to create new cells, this happens through cell division. It says not all cells are the same. Many different types of cells exist, each with a unique function. So even if you look at the pictures to the right there, there's different cells there. They're all cells, but they have different looks, different functions, different parts to them. Okay. So the cell theory and the experimental method, it says we used to believe that living organisms arose from non-living entities, a process known as spontaneous generation or abiogenesis. This was based on the observation that maggots would arise from food that had been left uncovered. So I think that there's a video here as well, and I can post that, but I'll explain basically what happens is that basically back in the day, they believed, I'm getting ahead of myself. They believed that basically if you left something, let's say a piece of meat on the ground outside, if you left it there, eventually, spontaneously, maggots would appear. And they believe that where did those maggots come from? Because there's nothing that they've seen that would say that the maggots randomly came there. So they must have spontaneously just appeared magically. And basically they figured that out from, seeing that if we left rotting things or we left food out, eventually it's going to rot. And when it starts to rot, the maggots will exist and eat it. Well, there was an experiment done basically by Louis Pasteur in 1745 that gave evidence that this basically was not true. And how they did this is they put meat out in the air, and then they put meat in a sealed container, and the one that was sealed didn't form maggots. So they're like, well, if it's sealed to the air, then it didn't form maggots. The maggots probably didn't spontaneously come there. And then they realized by watching closer that the reason maggots were there is because flies came and flies were able to lay eggs, and those eggs are maggots, and they started to, sort of feed on the dead stuff. So the reason they figured out there that, okay, maggots didn't randomly appear, it's that flies laid eggs that turned into maggots. Okay, so today, through his experiment as well as some other experiments about bacteria, he came up with a way that we can sort of keep food from, going bad, and basically that's heating it up. So this is something that we use in milk, where you might look on your milk container and it says pasteurized. Well, pasteurized is from Louis Pasteur. So in 1700s, he was the guy that did some experiments as well on heating up and not heating up, sort of, or keeping things from the air and heating them up and figuring out sort of what was causing things to grow bacteria. So if you look at this sort of picture on the left, What he did is he put these, I believe it was milk, in a container, and he boiled it. It has sort of like a very small tube, so basically cut off from the air. They wait for a while, and the bacteria doesn't grow. Then he tried another experiment where he boiled it with the same tube, but then he took the stem off so that it was more open to the air, and then bacteria started to grow. So basically he realized that if we seal things off, like his rotting meat experiment and his milk experiment, and then we also heat it up, then we should not have any bacteria grow, because heating it up will kill anything that was once there. And then if we cut it off from the air, then no flies or anything can, lay eggs to be able to start to grow bacteria. Okay? So what is the controlled variable? We're talking about controlled variables, responding variables, and manipulated variables. So before I even, try and figure that out, you guys sort of need to know what those